It is very difficult to escape the claws of government, and I agree with you on the fact that the government employee will seek to drag you into the fictional world that you speak of in your essay. But we are smarter than they are, Ron. They are simply following orders from another government employee that gets paid more than they do to make sure that everyone under them follows the rules. We answer to a higher authority, and that guidance is always reliable. The government employee does not know that what they are doing is wrong. Well, you do. But you are certainly the exception to that general rule, or that the boss telling them what to do may be unreliable when it comes to following the written law that limits where they apply their law. As in all things, this will change, as all things eventually do change, and the government will simply collapse under the weight of the hidden deceit being exposed all across the country. Government employees for the most part are really good slaves because they follow orders, or they do not get a treat, the paycheck, and the bennies. But just like the individual that defends him or herself in a courtroom without the help of a licensed attorney, they have a very difficult time controlling people like me who have more common sense and less material desires. In other words, I can't be bribed with money and benefits. I won't allow this to be a part of my life, and in a sense, I am an outcast in today's society, as are many of us that seek the truth. When the government employee discovers that the employer that is telling them what to do has been lying to them and every other American, and that in reality they are oppressing and ripping off their own family and friends, most will go through a period of great inner conflict. I believe that most human beings have a common bond, and that they really are good inside of that sometimes tough exterior. It takes a special kind of person to be a cop these days, to be able to stand by and watch a homeless man get beat up, tasered, and eventually killed like the 37-year-old man in Fullerton was on July 5, 2011 is very hard for most Americans. The ones who witnessed this brutal murder firsthand said that they began to cry and shout out, "That's enough, stop it, and leave that poor man alone." But the government employees that were brutally beating him ignored their pleas and continued to hit him over the head with a large heavy flashlight and taser him at the same time. 5 times these Fullerton police unloaded their tasers into this innocent man that weighed only 160 pounds and stood at 5'9". It was like a scene out of a horror film, only it was real. This man, Kelly Thomas, was harmless, and he was not trying to break into cars in that parking lot. In fact, as you know, just this month I myself yelled out to others to help me get this cop off my back. People were shouting at the cops then as well, and one brave young man shouted out, "That's BS, leave the old man alone." And as a result, he was arrested as well. Am I really that old? Those young people were standing up for me, but most of the adults just stood there gawking, or simply kept walking, ignoring what these ignorant government employees were doing to me. They mocked me in the statement that was made to the local rag called the Napa Register, saying, Herrick yelled out to the crowd, "Set me free, set me free." Of course, that is not what I said, and when I wrote a comment identifying myself and telling the truth about what really happened, this paper did not print it. But 50 people saw what happened to me in broad daylight, so there is no doubt that there are plenty of witnesses that will attest to the fact that I was not interfering, and that this cop engaged me because I stood my ground and refused to bow to his orders. Government employees are trained to do exactly what he did to me. We all know this, so it should not be a big surprise. I feel very fortunate that I was not beaten to death like Kelly Thomas, and that's probably because they realized that I was somehow different, that I seemed to know something that they did not. I doubt if they had ever faced the white 54-year-old male that told them what I did. The cop who arrested me looked very worried when he was doing the handoff to the jail employees. I could tell he was nervous, and because I never consented to anything he was demanding that I do, I think he realized I was not afraid of him. That shook him up. He was not used to people that are confident and exhibit no fear. I never resisted or fought back with fists, but I did tell all of them what I have learned from being a student of the written law. I did not let up, and they never told me to shut up. They were listening to me. The words rolled off my tongue because it taught me to write what I have learned over and over again until it became automatic. I did not hesitate and kept repeating the same thing over and over again. They were listening, and even if they did not understand what I was saying, it was as if I was in a classroom, and they were the students, but of course they were wearing flak jackets and sidearms instead of flip-flops and backpacks. I am making a difference, and, as small as it may be right now, I have a vision. I see this becoming a very big step for us as students of the truth. I am gaining the respect of some government employees, because they realize I know something that they do not. The incident in Fullerton happened just a few miles from where I have been living in Southern California, and something even more coincidental occurred when I returned from my Napa water polo tournament on July 12th. I took the Amtrak train to Napa from Fullerton, but had no knowledge of what had happened there just 2 days before heading north on July 7th. When I got off the train around 10:30 p.m., I noticed a huge crowd gathering and lots of people holding candles right in the Amtrak parking lot. I walked over to ask what the memorial was all about, and a woman began to tell me a close friend of mine named Kelly was beaten to death by 5 Fullerton police officers a few days ago, and we are grieving for the senseless loss of life. Then she began to sob, and I reached out to give her a hug. I told her it's okay, he is not forgotten, and I guarantee to you that Americans are standing up against this ruthless government and its out-of-control employees. Yes, how ironic is that? That could easily have been me lying in a pool of blood getting beaten to death, all because an Napa cop did not like me looking at him as he arrested a woman. I was standing on our land, and he is subject to our law, the unwritten law. We need to form common law juries across the country, and begin issuing our own subpoenas calling these criminals that violate our law into our system of justice. This is the next step, my friends, and Paul Hansen and I have discussed this at length in the past, but now it's time to do it. How do we organize these juries, and where will we hold our own hearings? This is the first thing we must establish in our local communities. This letter is way too long at this point, so I shall close by stating that any government employee who do not wish to be associated with this kind of brutal behavior of the cops in our neighborhoods and cities, and I believe they will begin to resign. They will cease to be employees, especially when the employer seeks to cut their pay and benefits. You see, what is happening in Greece and some other countries, as I write this to you, will eventually happen here. It is inevitable. Because if you do your homework, you soon realize that there is no way financially the entitlements can be paid for all the baby boomers that are about to retire in massive numbers in the government sector. Government employees can often retire with 90% of their salary, so that is what they are doing now if they are eligible. As these numbers grow exponentially, government will simply implode and collapse because financially it can't pay what it has promised. Americans will then lose all faith in their government, and guess who will be standing there with all the answers? That's right, you and me. It's coming, so don't be concerned about what you see happening. The result will be good for all of us, well, most of us anyway. Peace, love, and light to all of Ed Rivera's students, and of course to the chief who set me on the proper course. Thanks, Ed. Bye for now. This is Doug Herrick. Have a good day. P.S. Study exclusive legislative authority and the freedom that comes with the truth. Go to freeinhabitant.info or pauljjhansen.com.